In this video, you'll discover the 4 essential steps to set up your Windows PC for running Angular 19 applications. While this guide focuses on Angular 19, the steps are also relevant for older versions and likely adaptable to future versions of Angular. Here's a quick preview of the steps. Step 5 is a bonus and entirely optional. If you already know that you have administrator privileges on your PC, you can skip this quick test. But if you're unsure, let's check if you can run the command prompt with elevated privileges. Start by holding down the Windows key and pressing the letter R. This will open the Run dialog. Type CMD and press Control-Shift-Enter. The User Access Control dialog will appear. If you can click Yes without entering any additional credentials, a window titled Administrator Command Prompt will open. This confirms that you do have administrator privileges. You can close the command prompt window and proceed. However, if you are prompted to enter credentials, it's likely you do not have administrator privileges. In that case, you'll need to contact your IT department for assistance. Alternatively, I'll include a link to another video showing you how to proceed as a non-privileged user. Step 1. Install Node.js. To start, open your web browser and head over to the Node.js homepage. Once there, you'll see a call to action button for downloading the LTS version. That stands for Long-Term Support. This version is the safest choice for most developers. Now, the specific version of Node.js you install usually doesn't make much of a difference, but there are some situations where it might matter. If you're working on a team, they might require everyone to use the same version to avoid compatibility issues. In some organizations, security policies may dictate which versions you're allowed to use. Occasionally, things might work perfectly on your local setup, but your cloud-based build pipeline could be running a different Node.js version, causing unexpected issues. And finally, while rare, certain versions of Angular may not work with certain versions of Node.js. I've personally seen this happen in both 2023 and 2024. If you do run into one of these situations, don't worry. The Node.js website has a section where you can download older specific versions to match your needs. And even if your version is a release or two behind, it's usually not a big deal. It'll still get the job done. Let me show you how to install Node.js using the version I've downloaded, which is 23.6.1. After downloading the MSI file, just double-click it to open the Node.js setup wizard. Don't worry if the screen captures in this video don't match exactly what you see in your environment. Software interfaces are updated and may look slightly different over time. You can stick with the default settings and everything should work just fine. There's an option to automatically install some extra tools, but for our purposes, we won't need them, so make sure that box is left unchecked. Click the install button. Don't worry if you see a user account control prompt. That's just your computer doing its job to keep things secure. You'll need to allow it to continue the installation. Go ahead and click Finish. That completes Step 1. Step 2, install the Angular CLI. To get started, open a command prompt. You can do this by pressing the Windows key plus R to bring up the Run window. Type CMD, then press Enter. Next, type the following command: npm install -g at angular/CLI. Here's what's happening. npm stands for Node Package Manager. It's a powerful tool that lets you, among other things, install, uninstall, and update JavaScript packages, including the Angular CLI. This -g option installs the Angular CLI globally, making it accessible from anywhere on your system. Once this is complete, you've successfully installed the Angular CLI. CLI stands for Command Line Interface. It's an essential JavaScript tool that allows you to scaffold, develop, test, deploy, and maintain Angular applications, all from the command line. To check which version of Angular is installed, type ng version at the command prompt. You're now ready to create your first Angular application. Start by choosing a parent project directory where you'd like to store your new Angular application. Personally, I prefer keeping all my development projects organized in a single parent folder on the C drive, which I name dev. Okay, let's recap. You've installed Node.js in step 1. You've installed the Angular CLI in step 2. And now it's time to use the Angular CLI to generate a new Angular application. Since this video is part of a series where we'll be building a QR code maker, let's name the application QR Code Maker. Type ng new QR Code Maker and press enter. Change the default to SCSS as it's much more common for Angular developers to use. Simply press the down arrow key, then hit enter. When prompted to enable server-side rendering, just press enter to accept the default option of no. While SSR can be useful for certain projects, it's beyond the scope of this video series. And your new Angular application has been created. Just a quick note about the casing. I deliberately used Pascal case for the application name to highlight that the Angular CLI preserves the casing for the folder name that holds your application. However, in most of the Angular ecosystem, kebab case is the standard for file names and folder names. Step 4 is the final step to see your new application in action. Simply type ng serve-o. This will build your application and serve it on port 4200. The command line option -o automatically opens your web browser after a successful application build and serve. And there it is. Your new application is now live. It is browsable at http://localhost:4200. Stick around for the bonus step if you'd like to learn how to future-proof your application. Let's talk about an upcoming feature that was introduced in Angular 18, which I highly recommend enabling for all Angular apps you create from now on. It's called Zoneless. Currently, Angular 19 still relies on a library called Zone.js. If you're new to Angular, you should know that Zone.js has been part of the framework since Angular 2 was released in 2016. However, Zone.js can negatively impact performance by slowing down change detection, increasing payload size, and extending startup time. It also makes debugging more challenging and doesn't support some of the newer browser APIs. If we had added the option --experimental-zoneless when creating our app, the Angular CLI would have used a slightly different template to generate an Angular app that is zoneless. In an upcoming course I'll be releasing, we'll start with a zoneless Angular application from the very beginning. And that's it. You successfully completed the setup and created your first Angular application. If you found this helpful, stay tuned for more tips and advanced techniques in future videos. Thanks for following along, and I'll see you in the next one.